In the glittering heart of Houston, where oil tycoons and sharp-tongued lawyers weave their schemes, William Clark, a self-made titan of waste management, uncovers a chilling truth. His wife, Isabel, is plotting a betrayal so sinister it could cost him everything: his fortune, his dignity, and even his life. Armed with a secret skill from a shadowy past, William steps into a dangerous game to expose her deception. William Clark, 42, stood atop Houston's waste management empire, a man who turned garbage into gold. Known as the Recycling King, he commanded a network of companies that kept the city's streets clean and his bank accounts brimming. His success, however, came with a price. His marriage to Isabel Lawson, a 38-year-old rising star at one of Houston's most prestigious law firms, was crumbling. Once, their love had been a spark in the humid Texas nights, but now Isabel's late hours and sharp remarks about William's trashy profession stung deeper than he cared to admit. Isabel had always been ambitious. After years as a paralegal, she'd clawed her way through law school, funded partly by William's wealth. But as her career soared, her respect for him waned. At social gatherings, she introduced herself as Isabel Lawson, her maiden name, as if William's last name carried the stench of his landfills. Her late nights at the firm, her dismissive glances, and the growing distance in their bed sparked a gnawing suspicion in William's gut. Was she cheating? And if so, with whom? The annual Christmas gala at Isabel's law firm, Harper & Reed, was the perfect stage to find out. Every year, Isabel invited William, and every year, he declined, unwilling to endure the smug banter of Houston's legal elite. This time, though, he surprised her. "I'm coming," he said, his voice calm but his eyes searching hers. Isabel's face flickered with unease. "It's just lawyers bragging about billable hours, Will." "You'll be bored," she insisted, her tone a mix of plea and command. But William held firm, sensing her panic. In the days leading up to the gala, Isabel's excuses grew desperate. "You won't know anyone," she said one evening, brushing her dark hair in their sleek River Oaks mansion. "I'll know you," William replied, adjusting his tie in the mirror. Her forced smile didn't reach her eyes. William's suspicion deepened. He wasn't just going to the gala to play the dutiful husband. He was going to hunt for proof. Proof that could protect his empire if Isabel's betrayal ran as deep as he feared. What Isabel didn't know was that William had a secret weapon. In his early 20s, fresh out of college, he'd been recruited by the CIA for his uncanny ability to read lips with near-perfect accuracy. A brief stint in covert operations ended when a whistleblower exposed his unit, but the skill remained, sharp as ever. If Isabel was hiding something, William would see it in the words she didn't speak aloud. The night of the gala arrived, Houston's skyline shimmering under a December moon. The venue, a glitzy downtown hotel, buzzed with the city's legal elite, men in tailored tuxedos, women in sequin gowns, all sipping overpriced champagne. William, in a crisp Armani suit, felt the weight of their glances. "The garbage guy," someone whispered, followed by a snicker. He ignored it, his focus locked on Isabel. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her red dress catching the light as she laughed with colleagues. But her eyes darted to William, wary, as if tracking a threat. They found a table near the dance floor, joining a young couple who seemed out of place among the firm's heavyweights. William offered to get drinks, leaving Isabel to chat. At the bar, a slick attorney in his 40s approached. "You're with Isabel Lawson, right?" the man asked, his tone dripping with curiosity. "Didn't know she was still married." William's jaw tightened. "Happily, for 8 years," he lied, watching the man smirk falter. The encounter confirmed what William had feared. Isabel's colleagues saw her as unattached, and she hadn't corrected them. Returning with drinks, William noticed Isabel's unease as the music shifted to a slow ballad. "Dance with me," he said, extending a hand. She hesitated, her smile tight, but rose. On the dance floor, her body was stiff, her eyes avoiding his. Before long, a tall, distinguished man in his mid-40s cut in. "Mind if I steal her?" he asked, barely glancing at William. Isabel's face lit up, and she glided away without a word. William's pulse quickened. The man's name was Mason Reed, a senior partner at the firm, and, William suspected, the key to Isabel's secret. As they danced, William positioned himself at the edge of the floor, his eyes fixed on their lips. Mason leaned close, whispering. Isabel's response was faint, but William's skill kicked in. "Did you get the room?" she mouthed. Mason nodded. "Room 322. You sure he won't notice?" Isabel's lips curved. "He's clueless. I'll handle it." William's blood ran cold. They weren't just having an affair, they were planning something. Something dangerous. And he was the target. The chandeliers of Houston's glitziest hotel ballroom bathed the gala in golden light, but for William Clark, the air was thick with menace. Isabel's words, caught by his expertly trained lip reading, burned in his mind. He's clueless. I'll handle it. She swayed in Mason Reed's arms on the dance floor, her red dress a beacon of deceit. Mason, a senior partner at Harper and Reed, moved with the arrogance of a man who believed he was untouchable. William, however, was no bystander, he was a hunter, and his prey was the truth. Seated at their table near the dance floor, William clutched his untouched drink, its condensation slick against his palm. Isabel returned moments later, her smile as flawless as the gala's polished decor. "Enjoying yourself?" she asked, her tone light but her eyes probing. William leaned back, forcing a casual grin. "Best party I've been to in years," he said, watching her closely. Her fingers twitched around her champagne flute, a flicker of unease. She was hiding something, and William was determined to unravel it before the night was over. When the band shifted to a slow, sultry melody, Mason approached again, his confidence bordering on brazen. "Another dance, Isabel?" he asked, barely acknowledging William's presence. She glanced at her husband, hesitating, but William waved her off. "Have fun," he said, his voice steady while his mind churned. He needed them distracted to gather more clues. As they glided back to the dance floor, William slipped to a quieter edge of the ballroom, his eyes locked on their faces, reading their silent conversation. From behind a lavish floral display, William focused. Isabel's lips moved subtly, but his CIA-honed skill caught every word. "You brought it, didn't you?" she mouthed. Mason nodded, patting his jacket pocket. "Enough to put him out for the night." Room 322 set. Isabel's expression hardened. "Make it quick. I don't want him stirring." William's stomach lurched. They weren't just sneaking off for an affair, they were planning to drug him, maybe worse. His old training kicked in. Stay sharp, collect evidence, act smart. He needed to know what Mason was carrying. William threaded through the crowd, keeping his distance, until he reached the bar where Mason had lingered earlier. A waiter was distracted, polishing glasses, and William seized the chance. "Drop my keys," he muttered, crouching near the bar's base. His real target was a crumpled napkin Mason had discarded after touching his pocket. William pocketed it and retreated to a shadowed alcove. Unfolding the napkin, he saw a faint dusting of white powder, not sugar, not salt, but something sinister. His pulse thundered. Confronting them now would be reckless. Without ironclad proof, Isabel's legal allies would paint him as a paranoid husband, and a divorce could cost him half his empire. Texas law favored the betrayed only with evidence that held up in court. The powder was a lead, but he needed more. Returning to the table, William kept his face neutral. Isabel was back, chatting with the young couple seated nearby, but her eyes flicked to him as he Saturday, "You okay, Will?" she asked, her voice dripping with false warmth. "Couldn't be better," he replied, lifting his drink as if to sip. Her gaze lingered on the glass, and a chill ran through him. "It's in there." William excused himself to the restroom, his mind racing. In the mirrored corridor, he tipped the drink into a potted fern, his hand steady despite the fury simmering within. Back in the ballroom, the gala was nearing its end, but William's mission was far from over. He needed to know about room 322. As Isabel worked the crowd, he approached the hotel's front desk, flashing a charming smile at the clerk. "My wife booked a room 322. Is it under Lawson or Clark?" The clerk checked her screen, frowning. "It's under Reed. Mason Reed. Single occupant. Booked for tonight." William's jaw tightened. Single occupant. They weren't staying, they were setting a stage. He rejoined Isabel as the gala wound down, his mind a storm of calculations. A public confrontation would play into their hands. He needed to catch them in the act. As they left, Isabel looped her arm through his, her voice bright. "Ready to head home, honey?" she asked, the lie flawless. William nodded, playing the part. "Yeah, let's go," he said, but his eyes caught Mason's across the room, a smug, fleeting glance that confirmed the danger. In their car, Isabel's chatter was strained, her hands restless in her lap. William drove through Houston's neon-lit streets, his grip tight on the wheel. The trap in room 322 hadn't sprung, but the threat was alive. Whatever Isabel and Mason had planned, William wasn't the oblivious fool they thought. He was a man with a secret skill, a growing fury, and a plan to turn their betrayal into their downfall. The humid Houston night pressed against the windows of William Clark's sleek SUV as he drove away from the gala, Isabel seated beside him, her perfume a cloying reminder of her deceit. Her voice filled the silence, a stream of forced small talk about the party, but William's mind was elsewhere. The napkin with the mysterious white powder burned in his pocket, and the words he'd read on her lips, "Make it quick. I don't want him stirring," played on a loop. Room 322 wasn't just a rendezvous, it was a trap, and William had narrowly escaped it. But the danger wasn't over. Isabel's hand brushed his arm, a gesture that once sparked warmth but now felt like a viper's touch. "You were quiet tonight," she said, her tone probing. William kept his eyes on the road, the city's neon signs blurring past. "Just taking it all in," he replied, his voice flat. Her fingers lingered, then withdrew. He could feel her studying him, searching for cracks in his calm. She didn't know he'd poured out the tainted drink, didn't know he'd seen her conspire with Mason Reed. But he needed more than suspicions to protect his empire and his life. As they neared their River Oaks mansion, William's head began to swim. A faint dizziness crept in, his grip on the wheel faltering. His heart sank. The drink, he hadn't consumed it, but he'd handled the glass, touched the rim. Had some of the powder lingered on his skin, absorbed just enough to affect him? Panic clawed at him, but his CIA training kicked in. Stay focused. Stay alive. He swerved onto a quiet side street, the SUV lurching as he fought to stay conscious. "Will, what's wrong?" Isabel's voice was sharp, tinged with something fear or calculation. "Need air," he muttered, pulling over. He stumbled out, the night air cool against his clammy skin. Leaning against the car, he forced deep breaths, willing the fog to clear. Isabel followed, her heels clicking on the pavement. "You're scaring me," she said, but her eyes were cold, calculating. William's vision steadied, the dizziness fading. Whatever he'd absorbed wasn't enough to knock him out, but it was a warning. They'd meant to incapacitate him, maybe worse. He straightened, meeting her gaze. "I'm fine," he said, his tone clipped. "Let's get home." Back in the car, William's mind raced. He couldn't go to the police yet. Lip reading and a napkin with powder weren't enough to convict a lawyer like Isabel or a shark like Mason. But he could test the powder and turn their plan against them. At home, Isabel retreated to their bedroom, claiming exhaustion, while William slipped into his study. He sealed the napkin in a plastic bag, his hand steady despite the adrenaline. A contact from his CIA days, now a private lab tech, could analyze it by morning. If it was a controlled substance, he'd have leverage. Sleep was impossible. William sat in the dark, replaying the gala. Mason's smug glance, Isabel's nervous twitches, the clerk's confirmation of room 322 under Reed's name, it all pointed to a calculated betrayal. But why drug him? To humiliate him? To clear the way for an affair? Or was there a darker motive tied to his wealth? His companies were worth millions, and a divorce without proof of infidelity could cost him half. Isabel, with her legal cunning, would know that. And Mason, a partner at her firm, had the resources to help her. By dawn, William's contact delivered. The powder was a potent sedative, not lethal in small doses but dangerous if mixed with alcohol, like the drinks at the gala. Enough to knock someone out for hours, maybe cause a blackout. William's blood ran cold. If he'd drunk the whole glass, he might not have woken up. He needed to act fast. He called a lawyer friend, someone outside Isabel's circle, and laid out his suspicions, keeping the lip-reading detail vague. "Get me a PI," he said. "I need eyes on Isabel and Mason Reed, starting today." The private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Carla, met William at a diner near his downtown office. "You sure about this?" she asked, sipping black coffee. Accusing a lawyer and her hotshot boyfriend is a bold move. William slid her a photo of Isabel and Mason from the gala, snapped discreetly. "They tried to drug me last night. I need proof they're meeting, planning, anything." Carla raised an eyebrow but took the job. "Give me 48 hours, she said. "If they're sloppy, I'll catch them." That evening, William played the devoted husband, cooking dinner while Isabel worked late again. Her absence gave him time to search her home office. Behind a stack of legal briefs, he found a burner phone, its call log showing frequent texts to an unnamed number. One message, sent that morning, read, "He's fine. We need to regroup. Call me." William's jaw clenched. It was her, covering her tracks with Mason. He photographed the phone and returned it, his resolve hardening. As he sat alone in their mansion, Houston's skyline glowing beyond the windows, William felt the weight of betrayal. Isabel wasn't just cheating, she was playing a dangerous game, and he was the pawn. But he wasn't helpless. The lab results, the burner phone, Carla's investigation, pieces of a puzzle were falling into place. Whatever Isabel and Mason had planned next, William would be ready. And when the time came, he'd make sure their trap snapped shut on them. William Clark sat in his Houston office, the hum of the city's oil-driven pulse faint beyond the tinted windows. The lab report on his desk confirmed his fears. The powder from Mason Reed's napkin was a sedative strong enough to knock him out, or worse, if he'd drunk the entire spiked glass at the gala. The burner phone he'd found in Isabel's office, its cryptic text to an unnamed number, was another piece of the puzzle. His private investigator, Carla, was tailing Isabel and Mason, but 48 hours had passed with no word. Time was slipping away, and William knew his wife's next move could be deadly. Isabel's behavior at home had shifted since the gala. She was overly attentive, cooking breakfast, asking about his day with a warmth that felt rehearsed. William played along, his smiles masking the fury beneath. Every glance, every touch, was a calculation, hers to keep him off guard, his to bide time until Carla delivered. That morning, as Isabel left for the law firm, she'd kissed his cheek, her lips lingering. "Let's do dinner tonight, just us," she said, her eyes searching his. "Sure," William replied, his voice steady. But his gut screamed, "She's planning something." Carla's call came at noon, her voice low and urgent. "Got something. Meet me at the diner, now." William arrived to find her nursing a coffee, a manila envelope on the table. "Your wife and Reed are sloppy," she said, sliding the envelope over. Inside were photos. Isabel and Mason in a parked car near the firm, their heads close, her hand on his arm. Another showed them entering a low-rent motel, far from Houston's glitzy core. Timestamps placed them there yesterday afternoon. "They're meeting daily," Carla said. "And I overheard Reed mention finishing the job at a coffee shop this morning." William's blood ran cold. The photos were damning, proof of an affair, but finishing the job suggested more than infidelity. He handed Carla the lab report and burner phone photos. "This is what they tried at the gala," he said. "Can you get audio? Something that ties them to the drugging?" Carla nodded. "Risky, but I'll plant a bug in Reed's car tomorrow. If they talk, we'll have them." William paid her double, his resolve ironclad. He wasn't just saving his fortune, he was fighting for his life. That evening, dinner with Isabel was a tense charade. She'd chosen a quiet Italian restaurant in Montrose, her red dress a cruel echo of the gala night. "You seem distracted," she said, swirling her wine. William forced a smile. "Work's been heavy. You know how it is." Her eyes narrowed, but she dropped it, chatting about a new case at the firm. William watched her lips, half expecting a slip, but she was too careful. As they left, she suggested a late drive for old time's sake. Warning bells rang in William's mind. "Maybe tomorrow," he said, steering them home. At the mansion, Isabel retreated to bed, but William stayed up, combing through the burner phone photos again. A new text had arrived. "Tomorrow. Same place. Bring it." His heart raced. The motel? Likely. Carla's bug needed to be in place by morning. He texted her the update, urging speed. Sleep eluded him, his mind replaying the gala, the dizziness in the car, the smug curve of Mason's lips. If they were planning another attempt, he had to stay one step ahead. Carla's next update came at dawn. The bug was planted in Mason's BMW, hidden under the dashboard. By midday, she sent a grainy audio file. William listened, his office door locked. Mason's voice crackled. "You didn't drink it last time. We can't screw this up again." Isabel's reply was sharp. "I'll get him to the motel. You handle the dose." Mason chuckled. "Once he's out, we're clear. The firm's payout will cover everything." William's hands shook. They weren't just drugging him. They were planning to stage something, maybe an overdose, to claim his wealth or silence him. He called his lawyer, laying out the evidence, the lab report, photos, audio, burner phone. "File for divorce and a restraining order," William said. "And get this to the police. Attempted assault, conspiracy, whatever sticks." The lawyer hesitated. "This is big, Will. If they're charged, Harper and Reed will fight dirty." William's voice was steel. "Let them. I'm done playing nice." As evening fell, William prepared for Isabel's next move. She'd texted about dinner again, suggesting a quiet spot near the motel from Carla's photos. He agreed, but not as her pawn. He alerted Carla to tail them and notified the police, sharing just enough to ensure a patrol nearby. Driving to meet Isabel, Houston's skyline loomed like a chessboard where every move was life or death. William wasn't the recycling king tonight. He was a man with a secret skill, a mountain of evidence, and a burning need for justice. Whatever trap Isabel and Mason had set, he was ready to spring it back on them. William Clark stood outside a nondescript motel on the outskirts of Houston, the neon sign flickering in the dusk. Isabel had chosen this quiet spot for dinner, but William knew it was no coincidence. It matched the motel from Carla's photos, where she and Mason Reed had been meeting. His evidence was ironclad. Lab results of the sedative, burner phone texts, photos of their rendezvous, and audio of their chilling plan to finish the job. With a police patrol nearby and Carla tailing Mason, William was ready to turn their trap against them. Inside the motel's dimly lit diner, Isabel waited at a corner booth, her red dress a stark reminder of the gala where this nightmare began. "You look tense," she said as William slid into the seat opposite her, her smile tight. "Rough day," he replied, his eyes scanning her for tells. Her fingers drummed the table, a nervous tick she couldn't hide. William's phone buzzed, a text from Carla. "Mason's here. Parked out back. Bugs live." The game was on. Isabel pushed a glass of water toward him. "You need to relax," she said, her voice too sweet. William's gut twisted. The water, like the gala drink, was likely spiked. He lifted it, pretending to sip, then set it down untouched. "Tell me about your day," he said, leaning back. Isabel launched into a rehearsed story about a client, but her eyes kept flicking to the diner's entrance. William followed her gaze and saw Mason slip in, taking a seat at the bar, his back to them but close enough to watch. Carla's audio feed crackled in William's earpiece, hidden beneath his collar. "He's not drinking it," Mason muttered, his voice low but clear. Isabel's reply was sharp. "Give it time. If he doesn't, we'll try the car." William's blood ran cold. They were improvising, desperate to finish what they'd started. He texted Carla under the table. "Cops now." The patrol was minutes away, but he needed to keep Isabel talking, keep her here. "You've been distant lately," William said, his tone soft but probing. "Work stress, or something else?" Isabel faltered, her smile slipping. "Just work," she said, but her voice wavered. William leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Or maybe it's Mason Reed." Her eyes widened, a flash of panic, but she recovered quickly. "Don't be ridiculous," she snapped, but her hand shook as she reached for her wine. William pressed harder. "I know about room 322, Isabel. And the sedative." The diner seemed to freeze. Isabel's face drained of color, her lips parting in shock. Before she could respond, the door swung open, and two uniformed officers stepped in, their radios crackling. Carla trailed behind, pointing subtly at Mason. "That's him," she mouthed to the cops. Mason turned, his smug facade crumbling as an officer approached. "Mason Reed, we need to talk," the officer said, his hand on his holster. Isabel's glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the table. William stood, his voice calm but firm. "They tried to drug me, officers. I have proof, lab reports, audio, photos." Isabel's eyes darted to him, her composure gone. "Will, what are you doing?" she hissed. But the officers were already cuffing Mason, who protested loudly about his rights. Carla handed the police a USB drive with the audio and photos, her expression grim. "You're done," she told Isabel, who sat frozen, tears welling. At the police station, William laid out everything. The gala, the lip reading, the powder, the burner phone, the motel plot. The lab report confirmed the sedative's danger, and the audio tied Isabel and Mason to a conspiracy to harm him. By dawn, both were charged with attempted assault and conspiracy. Isabel, ever the lawyer, tried to spin a story of coercion, claiming Mason pressured her. But the evidence was overwhelming, and her plea fell flat. The trial was swift. A surprise witness, an elderly waitress from the gala, testified she'd seen Isabel slip something into William's drink, thinking it was sugar for his coffee. Her testimony, paired with Carla's evidence, sealed their fate. Isabel took a plea deal, testifying against Mason for a 4-year sentence. Mason, defiant to the end, was convicted and sentenced to 12 years. The courtroom buzzed as the gavel fell, Houston's legal elite whispering about the fall of Harper and Reed's star partner. William's divorce was finalized before Isabel's sentencing. With proof of her infidelity and criminal acts, he kept his empire intact. Harper and Reed, desperate to avoid a scandal, settled a hefty lawsuit, boosting William's wealth. But money wasn't his victory. Standing outside the courthouse, Houston's skyline gleaming under a clear sky, William felt a weight lift. He sold Isabel's engagement ring, donating the proceeds to a local charity for betrayed spouses, a quiet act of closure. Months later, William stood at a community event, unveiling a new recycling initiative for Houston's underserved neighborhoods. The crowd applauded, calling him the recycling king not with scorn, but pride. Isabel and Mason faced their consequences, locked away for their crimes. William, though scarred, was free not just from their trap, but from the pain of their betrayal. He turned their deceit into his triumph, proving that justice, not vengeance, was the sharpest weapon of all.